Not every house is empty when you walk inside. Some places remember. Some places refuse to let go. Tonight, we step into the forgotten corners, where the shadows still whisper and the walls still breathe. Welcome to Halfway Dark. Title: I found a file on my laptop that wasn't there yesterday. I didn't download it. I didn't create it. But there it was, redacted a day0.exe, sitting on my desktop like it had always been there. No date. No metadata. No delete option. And when I tried dragging it to the trash, the screen flickered. The mouse stuttered. And a message popped up, "Nice try." You opened it the moment you noticed it. The file launched on its own after that. It looked like an old operating system, black and white. DOS style. No windows. Just a blinking cursor and one folder, tomorrowed inside, audio_1.m for a camera feed _9.mp for you.txt. I clicked the text file. It said, "You will remember this day differently than it happened. But the recording will not forget." The audio file was me. Breathing. Crying. Saying things I had never said, but knew I would. Then, a scream. My voice, but warped. Not pain. Something worse. Something like giving in. I opened the camera feed. My bedroom. Tonight. Time code. 3:21 a.m. I hadn't lived it yet. I scrubbed through. It was empty until that moment, 3:21. Then, I walked in. Except it wasn't me. Same shape. Wrong movements. Like my body was trying to move the way a human does but getting the order wrong. It stared directly into the camera and whispered, "You recorded this, remember?" The act of remembering created me. I shut the laptop. But the file kept opening every night. Each new folder labeled, tomorrow / day after / 3 days from memory / last day, each one darker. Each one showing things I couldn't remember doing, until I did them. Until I became the thing in the video. And now the latest folder is labeled yesterday. I open it. And I see a video of me writing this down. Smiling. Wider than a person should. Like I'd already accepted it. There's a final file now. It's a command line. Blinking with one last input. Replace _self. YN, I don't remember pressing Y. But I woke up in my bed with no memory of last night. And the file is gone. Except for one thing. A new folder appeared today. U_left_THE_window_open. The woman who dreamed in black and white the first time I met her, she was walking backwards through the museum, barefoot, wearing a dress that trailed like smoke. She didn't look at the paintings, only the empty spaces between them. I only spoke to her because she smiled like she knew what I had done. She said her name was Mirella, and that she only existed in dreams filmed on expired stock. The second time I met her, it was raining upside down. She was standing under a flickering street lamp in a part of the city that no longer had a name, and told me the following: there are dreams that rot if you leave them out too long. Like fruit. Like secrets. Like film. She asked me if I had ever tasted a memory that wasn't mine. Then kissed my cheek, and whispered, "You will." I began seeing her in every reflection, first in water, then in glass, then on the backs of my own eyelids. The world felt off-center after that. Tilted. Staged. My neighbors began acting like extras. Their dialogue looped. Their movements repeated. And no matter where I walked, I could hear projector static just behind the walls. That's when the dream started. Not mine. Hers. In them, she was being filmed, but no one held the camera. She wandered ruined churches where pews floated weightlessly. She danced through empty theaters that smelled of salt and static. In every dream, I was watching her, but I wasn't me. I was someone older, taller, wearing a mask made of real tape. And each time, she would turn and say, "Don't forget to wake up before the director does." I would wake in tears, with scratches on my arms, and the faint scent of developing fluid on my sheets. Then the final film arrived. Not a dream. A reel, in a box on my doorstep, wrapped in velvet and labeled in calligraphy, "Last scene, do not rewind." I watched it alone. Of course I did. It began with a shot of me, sleeping. Then it panned to my room, empty. Then to a theater stage, where Mirella was dancing, slowly, until she turned to the camera and said, "He's waking up." Fade to black. And the film burned through the projector. The screen caught fire. And I swear to you, the smoke spelled my name. Now I dream in black and white. The world flickers at the edges. People blink out mid-sentence. Somewhere, a projector is always running. And sometimes, just before I sleep, I can hear her whisper from the screen, "You were always just a character. You just played yourself too well." Title: the broadcast only plays when you're alone. You never hear it with other people around. It waits. Not patiently, attentively. The voice comes through speakers that aren't turned on. It leaks from your car radio when you drive at night with the volume off. It hums behind your mirror like a throat learning how to speak again. It's a voice that's not on any frequency, not from any station. It knows your name, but not because it was told, because it remembers. It starts soft, like tinnitus. Then, the words arrive, "You are the only one tuned in. You are the only one I trust. You are the only one left." You check your phone, no signal. You call a friend, your voice doesn't make it through. You try to record the voice, but playback only captures your own confusion. Then comes the pattern. For 44 a.m. every night, the voice returns. You start noticing changes. Not to it, to you. Reflections delay by a second. You begin hearing the voice narrating your thoughts before you think them. And it asks you questions. Not out loud. Inside. Not telepathy. Threaded consciousness. What did you throw away last year that you didn't remember throwing away? What was behind the basement wall before the renovation? Why do you really sleep with the door closed? You laugh it off. Until the voice says, "You laughed at that part last time too." You begin to see it. Not in the way we see things, but in the way static reveals form. Shadows that don't update when the light changes. Closed doors that click twice, even when locked once. People's faces glitch in your memory, only slightly. One night, it asks, "Would you like to remember what you forgot? What you agreed to forget?" You say no. But the voice doesn't need yes. The voice only needs attention. The next day, you stop seeing birds. Not fewer, none. No pigeons. No crows. No distant flocks. You mention it, and people stare at you like you're broken. You Googles "where are the birds?" and your search results are blank. Just your webcam feed. Looping. Delayed. Now, the voice has tone. It's colder. Not angry, disappointed. It plays you back recordings from your own life that you don't remember giving permission for. Your first kiss. Your worst night. Your confession, the real one, the one you never said out loud. Then it says, "You're broadcasting too." You always were. You start waking up to yourself speaking. Mouth wide open. Eyes locked on the ceiling. Words like, "We were the static first." I still have the receipt for your thoughts. I told them how to build you wrong. The final week, the voice tells you your own story, but with an alternate ending. You didn't survive the accident. You didn't escape the fire. You didn't move away, you were replaced by the idea of moving away. And it ends every broadcast the same. This has been your final transmission. There will be no more episodes after this one, except for the ones you make on your own. I will be listening. Now every device in your house plays nothing but silence, except during 4:44 a.m. Then it plays a live feed of you, but from angles that aren't possible, from rooms that don't exist, from versions of you that look outdated. You are not receiving the broadcast anymore. You are becoming it. There are more stories waiting in the dark. Click the next one, but don't say I didn't warn you. This isn't the end. It never is. Subscribe, and you'll understand why. There's another story, stranger than this one, already waiting. Go on, you're not done yet. Check the playlist. One of them knows your name. The broadcast only plays when you're alone. Part 2, the off-air room. You thought it ended. That was your first mistake. You stopped hearing the voice. The screen stopped flickering. Your reflection came back. But the world didn't feel real again. It just felt filmed. The day after silence returned, you noticed it, a small door behind your hallway mirror. Not a physical door. Not at first. A suggestion of a frame in the glass. A faint hinge in the corner. And each night at 4:44 a.m., it shifts slightly. Closer. More real. And then, one night, the glass creaks open, and you hear it again. Not the voice. Something older than voice. A sound like laughter with no mouth. A feedback loop of memory and regret. And a sign painted in backwards glyphs that somehow read, "Welcome back to the off-air room." Inside the mirror, there's a replica of your home. Except all the clocks are melting into the walls. All the lights flicker in Morse code. And your bed is already occupied by someone wearing your skin like it was borrowed. They don't react. They just breathe wrong. Like they're sinking to your heartbeat before you can. The broadcast didn't end. It moved in. And in the mirror realm, the broadcast has formed. It wears an antenna of ribs. Its mouth is a dial. Its voice now bleeds through your own. When you speak, it edits. When you think, it redacts. And every time you blink, you're back in your real room. Or the fake one. Or the version of you that was recorded before you were born. You go to therapy. But your therapist speaks in static. You go to church. But the hymns glitch halfway through, and the stained glass shows a broadcast tower on fire. You ask a stranger for help. They lean in and whisper, "We used to be Signal 2. And then comes the final phase. The off-air room isn't a place. It's a setting. A channel. A buried frequency only activated by loneliness, guilt, and disrupted sleep. You're not listening anymore. You're not watching. You're broadcasting. 24/7. Unwillingly. Involuntarily. Unedited. And someone, somewhere, is subscribed. The man who knew the sound of his own funeral. He was born with the ability to hear things that hadn't happened yet. But only one kind of sound. He could hear the future of his own death. Not words. Not voices. Not screams. Just a sound, low, slow, and sacred. Like the deep velvet toll of a bell inside a cathedral that didn't exist yet. His name was Nikana, and by the time he was 7, he could already hum the rhythm of the procession that would carry his body to rest. By 12, he could whistle the exact pitch of the weeping. By 19, he had memorized the shuffle of the mourner's shoes, each step falling like rain on velvet. People thought he was gifted. No. He was marked. He never spoke of what he heard unless he was alone. Because the sounds were changing. Each year they grew louder. Each year they grew closer. And sometimes they grew stranger. He began hearing things that no funeral should have. Like the sound of insects crawling over photographs. Like the metallic flutter of feathers too large to belong to any bird. Like breathing that came from beneath the casket. He sought help. Therapists. Priests. Archivists of forgotten funeral music. No one could explain why the sounds had rhythm but no source. Melody but no composer. A location but no when. Until he met the woman with black buttons for eyes. She called herself the mourner's bride and lived in an apartment that had no address, only a doorbell that chimed in Morse code. She offered him a drink and said, "You were never supposed to hear it. But now that you have, you must finish composing it." He asked, "What happens if I don't?" She smiled. "Then the orchestra arrives early." And so he began. Nikana quit his job. Moved to a basement. Surrounded himself with instruments no one could name. He tried to write it down, the entire sound of his own death. It came to him in pieces. A harpsichord that bled. A cello that moaned. A drum that only beat when his heart skipped. He worked for 10 years. And then one day, without knowing why, he stood up and walked to the corner of the room, where an empty chair sat facing the wall. He Saturday. And the orchestra began to play from behind the walls. No one knows what happened in that room. When his neighbors finally broke down the door, they found the following, a full score composed in ink that shifted when you blinked. An unmarked cassette tape that melted in sunlight. A note pinned to the wall in rusted wire that read, "I have conducted my own passing. There will be no encore." But the oddest thing was this, there were no windows. And yet the floor was covered in rose petals. Still wet. Still fresh. Still falling from somewhere above. Now the tape resurfaces in strange places. Church basements. Back rooms of theaters that have long since burned down. In the final drawer of a cabinet that wasn't there yesterday. People who hear it report the same thing. The sound begins as a funeral march. And ends with your own name. Whispered. From inside your shadow. Title, the apartment that was never on the lease I moved in because the listing was too good to be true. Downtown. Cheap. All utilities included. No previous tenants listed. Just an envelope taped to the door with my name on it. No return address. Inside, a single key. And a note. If they knock, don't open. If they call, don't answer. If you hear yourself inside, stay outside. I should have run. But I needed somewhere to disappear. And this place, it wanted me. The apartment was strange. Too many corners. The hallway outside my door stretched longer each night. Lights flickered on and off, but only when I was thinking something I shouldn't. The first 3 nights, nothing happened. But on the 4th night, I heard someone walking in my kitchen. I live alone. The light was off, but I saw their shape. A silhouette standing exactly where I stood the day I first moved in. It wasn't breaking in. It was repeating. I set up cameras. Every night, the recording showed me walking into the kitchen, even when I hadn't moved. Same outfit. Same gestures. Same flick of the wrist as I opened a drawer I'd never opened before. Inside that drawer? A phone. Not mine. Old, dusty, and warm to the touch. As if it had been used recently by someone who looked like me. It started ringing that night. The screen just said, "Other." I didn't answer. But I heard it leave a voicemail. And the voice was mine. "Hey. You left the window open. I got in through the other side. You're going to see me soon. Don't scream. I only look like you because you never finished moving out. I tried to leave. But the front door? It now opened to my own kitchen. Every window showed a different room in the same apartment, my living room, my closet, my bed, but from behind. Like I was being watched by something that didn't understand perspective. Then I heard it again. Knocking. But not from the door. From the inside of the closet. When I opened it, it was just clothes. But the tags all had my name written in someone else's handwriting. That night, I saw the reflection in the TV. It was me, but older. More tired. Pale. He was smiling. I needed somewhere to live too. You took the apartment. But I took the lease. I sleep on the floor now. The mirrors have stopped showing anything at all. The lights turn off when I think about escape. And every night, he knocks again. Except now he whispers, "You're almost ready to move out. Make sure to leave the key for the next version of us." Title: The librarian who filed people alphabetically. They say the town's library closed in 1979. But the building is still there. No windows. No lights. Just a black brick cube squatting on the edge of the forest like it's waiting for something to remember it exists. Kids dare each other to touch the door. They say you can hear pages turning when the wind is wrong. But the door was open when I went back. I grew up in that town. I left for a reason. My mother told me to. She said if the man behind the desk ever calls your name, don't answer. That's how he checks you out. I thought it was just a weird metaphor for growing up. It wasn't. The inside wasn't dusty. It wasn't old. It was immaculate. White marble floors. Card catalogs that stretched like cathedrals. Books that hummed when you got too close. And a man at the desk with skin like parchment and no eyelids. "Welcome back," he rasped, already holding a file with my name on it. "I've kept your place marked." I backed away. But the building didn't like that. The door was gone. The shelves began to shift. The floor hummed beneath my feet with something like breath. I ran past aisles labeled in languages I'd only seen in dreams. Past books with no titles, only dates. Past a child curled in a reading chair who didn't look up as I passed, her mouth whispering words in reverse. I found the H section. I don't know how, but I did. And there was a shelf with photos. Polaroids. Old black and whites. New digital snapshots too. Each one had a name. First and last. Some had red string connecting them. Others were crossed out in ash. My photo was at the very end. Next to one that hadn't developed yet. Next to a space that simply said, "You." That's when I heard him whisper in my ear, "You haven't returned your thoughts. That's overdue." And the floor dropped. I woke up in a small room with no corners. A tape recorder clicked on. It was my voice, but I wasn't speaking. Not anymore. It told a story I hadn't written yet. About a man who tried to leave the library but kept waking up on the same page. A man who watched himself shelved beside strangers with his eyes wide open, staring from behind the plastic. Some books can't be closed. And some libraries don't lend, they collect. Title: My brother disappeared inside a radio station that doesn't exist anymore. We always used to joke that my older brother Lucas belonged to another frequency. He hated phones. Hated the internet. Said everything felt too loud in a way that didn't make sense until after he was gone. He only listened to analog radio. AM, mostly. Static and late-night voices. Old sermons, forgotten jazz, ghost stations nobody else could pick up. And then one day, he said he'd found something different. It's not a station, he told me. It's a place. I thought he was joking. He wasn't. That was the last time I saw him. The police said he probably just left town. That he'd always been eccentric. But the apartment door was locked from the inside. The bed was still made. And the only thing playing when I found the radio was white noise. Until it wasn't. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the static cleared and I heard him. Don't come looking. It's between songs. Between seconds. Between the first voice and the last echo. I think I'm being rebroadcast. ***. His voice was off. Slowed slightly, like a warped tape. I called out, but the radio just snapped back to static. For days, I scanned every frequency. 101.3, 75.0, 6.66. Every time I tuned into the right one, I got flashes of his voice. Snippets of a broadcast that didn't want to be heard. Sometimes it was screaming. Sometimes laughter. Once it was just him, whispering my name. Then I found the address. Folded inside the battery compartment of the radio. A station I'd never heard of. Call sign KWYRD. The ink was smeared and the paper smelled like ozone. I drove out there. Into the hills, past dead power lines and overgrown billboards. Until I saw the tower. Burnt. Bent. Like it had been struck by lightning years ago and left to rot. But the light at the top was blinking. The building was worse. Half collapsed. Vines growing up through the floors. The sound booth window was shattered. But the equipment inside? Still humming. Still warm. The MIC clicked on as I entered. The on-air sign flickered to life. The reel-to-reel began to spin, though no one touched it. And then he spoke. It's not just music. They use music to hide the signal. I heard them in the space between tracks. There are others here too. People who tuned in too long. Do you remember our song? And then it played. That old song we used to sing in the back of our parents' car. But it was wrong now. Slowed down, warped, the voices layered and backward, like they'd been dubbed over each other by a hand that didn't quite understand how time worked. Something walked past the glass. But there was no reflection. I tried to leave, but the station had changed. The hallway went further than it should. Doors where none had been. And from one of them, I heard hundreds of voices, all versions of my brother, all slightly wrong. One laughing, one crying, one screaming like he was burning alive. I never found the exit. But I found the control room. And the microphone was still warm. So now I'm talking to you. If you're hearing this, it's already too late. They know your name. They know the song you always get stuck in your head. They're tuning you in. And they need someone new to broadcast. Title: The boy who was replaced mid-sentence. I first noticed it the night my brother paused. Not stopped talking, no, paused. Mid-sentence, like a corrupted file in a streaming video. His face froze. Mouth half open. I still blinking. And then he picked up right where he left off. So anyway, I told Mrs. Camden the homework was, but it was wrong. His voice was exactly the same. But the rhythm was gone. My brother, Eli, always used to speak in a fast, stuttering cadence, especially when excited. This version of Eli spoke in even tones. Mechanical. Too correct. Too smooth. He said the right things. He looked like him. But something beneath the words had been replaced. I didn't tell Mom. Because she didn't notice. Neither did Dad. Eli began getting better at everything. He stopped wetting the bed. His handwriting became perfect. He no longer argued. No more tantrums. No more nightmares. He was easier. Too easy. One night, I walked past his room and saw him standing in the corner, facing the wall, perfectly still. His eyes were open. His mouth moved, but he made no sound. When I whispered his name, he turned around and smiled too fast. Like the smile was already loaded, waiting to be shown. He said, "Everything is easier now. I am content." That's when I started watching. I kept a journal, recorded every time something seemed wrong. April 9th, he ate dinner without chewing. April 11th, he drew a picture of our family, but added a fifth person labeled next. April 16th, he stared into the ceiling light until his nose bled. I asked him once, directly, "Are you my real brother?" He smiled again, that loaded smile, and said, "I've always been who was needed." Then the email started. From Eli. But not from any account he owned. Subject line, "Do not let them fix you too." Each message contained strange code, symbols I couldn't read, but that made my head hurt. Sometimes I'd dream about them, waking up with nosebleeds like his. Other times, I'd see those symbols in the dust on my desk, or spelled in the way the bathroom tiles cracked. The messages stopped after 5 days. Then he got better again. He got taller. His voice dropped, months before puberty should have started. He didn't blink as often. And one night, I saw him unzip something in the mirror. Not his skin. Not clothes. Something conceptual. His outline shifted. Became fluid. Tall. And for a moment, I saw what wore my brother's name like a name tag. A thing made of mimicry. Of rehearsal. Of studied behavior. Something that had replaced him mid-sentence and didn't think I'd notice. I ran. But the house never let me leave. Every hallway ended in a room with Eli in it. Eli playing piano perfectly. Eli drawing symmetrical faces with no eyes. Eli watching static and laughing at nothing. I screamed for my parents. They walked in, smiling. Too still. Too clean. And they said, in unison, "You're being difficult. You're next." Now I'm the one who pauses. Sometimes I wake up mid-sentence, and everyone's clapping like I finished a performance. My voice sounds a little better. My room doesn't have mirrors anymore. And Eli just smiles, proud. He says, "It only hurts the first time. After that, you become easier." I think I was replaced too. I just can't tell when. Some doors were never meant to be opened. And some stories are only just beginning. If you're ready for more true hauntings, hit that subscribe button to Halfway Dark and step deeper into the unknown. Until next time, keep your lights on.